Hi, I'm Eric from Simply Elegant Home Cooking. Today I'm going to show you a delicious Mexican recipe. We're going to be doing stuffed poblano peppers. They are stuffed with a Mexican rice and chorizo blend, and I've topped this off with some homemade avocado cream. The spiciness of these peppers and their fillings is just balanced out so nicely from the cream. This is a true restaurant quality dish, and you can put it together on a weeknight or impress your friends on a weekend. Nice get together with friends and family. So stick around and I'll show you how it's done. So the first thing we want to do for our stuffed poblano peppers is to prep the rice. Now I'm using basmati rice, but other types of long grain white rice will work too. But what we want to do first for best results, I'm going to soak the basmati rice in cold water for about 30 minutes. And you can use a bowl, but I actually find using a pitcher is best for when we go to separate the water out, but whatever you have works. So I've measured out a cup of the basmati rice. And once the rice is submerged, you just want to give it a stir. And while we soak the basmati rice, this is the perfect time to make our avocado cream sauce. So I've started by taking 2 ripe avocados and cutting them in half and scooping all the contents into a bowl. And now I'm going to add some citrus. Now you can use lemon or lime. Today I'm going to use the juice of about half of a lime. Next I'm going to add a generous amount of sea salt. And I'm going to get out my mixer in just a moment, but I usually like to start this process just by mashing lightly with a fork. Okay, so now that we got that mashing process started with the fork, I'm going to go in with a hand mixer and continue. So there's a couple options for adding extra creaminess to your avocados. These are the two products. I usually use one of these two, either the Mexican crema or full-fat Greek yogurt. Today I'm going to use the Greek yogurt. If you don't have either of these, another good option is sour cream. It really is just a matter of personal preference, how loose you like it. So the Greek yogurt is going to give a little bit thicker consistency, but if you like it a little looser, use the Mexican crema or sour cream. And it won't take the whole package. I'm going to put in maybe I'm going to say about 4 tablespoons of the Greek yogurt. And you can always add more, so you can always start with a little bit less and then get this incorporated and see how you like the consistency. Now you can certainly skip this step if you don't have one of these, but I really prefer to use these plastic squeeze bottles to serve the avocado cream. It's pretty easy to get them in. You just need to buy a squeeze bottle as well as a kitchen funnel, and then you can just use a spoon to neatly load the avocado cream in. It's just going to help when you go to serve, but if you don't have this, it's fine. It's just not going to look as pretty. Now, if you have your own way of making Mexican style rice, you can certainly swap out your own technique, but what I'm going to show you for me is just about foolproof. This is a really easy method, and if you follow it, you're pretty much guaranteed to have perfect rice. So what I've done, after giving the rice the long soak, I have rinsed it and drained it a number of times until all of that cloudiness in the water disappears. You want to drain it nicely, and then at this point I have it in a 2-quart, a relatively small saucepan, and I'm going to add 1.5 cups of cold water. And I'm going to turn the burner on to about medium heat, and we're going to bring this up to a rolling simmer. And again, you can always modify this recipe to suit your tastes, but I do like to gently season the rice. So I'm going to add some chili powder and cumin. Next, I'm going to add some sea salt. Now, you don't want to be too heavy-handed with the salt because we're going to be adding chorizo to the rice, which has a lot of salt already in it, but I like to at least cook a little bit of salt into the rice. And this is optional, but I like to add a very small amount of some Spanish extra virgin olive oil, just about, maybe a teaspoon or so. And now while that rice comes up to temperature, we just want to give it a little stir to evenly incorporate those spices. just like that. So we'll keep an eye, and once this comes up to a rolling simmer, we're going to turn the heat all the way down. And that's exactly what you're looking for. You don't want it to come to a full-on boil. So at this point, I'm going to give the rice one last stir. And we're going to cover the rice and turn it down as low as your burner goes. And we're going to let that cook for about 15 minutes. And while that rice steams, we can prep our poblano peppers. This is really the star of the dish. Now there's a very specific cut that we want to do. One mistake a lot of people make when they make stuffed poblano peppers is they try to cut these in half and use both halves. But you'll notice that the peppers have kind of a curved shape, so that really doesn't work well on this other second half. So I'm going to show you what I think is the most effective way to cut these. Okay, so I started here right at the top. You'll notice I left this whole piece intact. You want to kind of cut at a downward angle. And you'll notice that that's still really, really deep, and it's going to give us a lot of space. Now we want to clear out the core of this pepper first. We don't want all those seeds in there. And all I did off camera is I took this over the trash can, held it upside down, and shook it. And used my fingers just to remove any of those seeds and remove that core. So that's what you're looking for. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking that we cut off an awful lot of the pepper, and that looks like a lot that's going to go to waste. It's actually not going to go to waste. What we're going to do, we're going to dice that up and put it in the filling of the peppers. And it's simple. You just want to cut the pepper into strips and then go against the grain and cut it into a dice. And here's how our peppers look now that we've prepped them, removing that top piece and dicing it up. And you'll notice that I've also diced up about half a white onion. This is optional, but I really like it in this recipe. And after the timer goes off on your rice, 15 minutes on the lowest possible heat, just want to turn that off and just take the burner, leave the lid on. We never took the lid off at any point. Just set that on one of your cool burners. You can set that aside. Okay, so now all of the prep work required for our stuffed poblano peppers is out of the way. The rest of this recipe is super, super quick and simple. It just really helps to get everything prepped ahead of time. So what we're looking at now is the Mexican style chorizo. This is a heavily seasoned pork sausage. Now, if you can't find this, you can really use any type of ground meat. You'll just want to add extra seasonings. I'm not going to add much because this comes heavily seasoned. You could use ground chicken, beef, pork, really anything, and just add some additional spices if you can't find this product. And that was a 1-pound package of the chorizo that I showed you a moment ago. I've taken about half. We're using about half a pound. I've removed it from the casings and broken it up into small pieces, and I'm going to reserve the other half for other recipes that I do. Okay, so while I did my prep, I also preheated the oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Now what I'm going to do, we're going to cook the chorizo, but while I do that, I'm going to preheat this sheet pan that we're going to use to cook the poblano peppers. So I'm going to pop this in the oven at 350 degrees for a couple minutes. And now I'm going to preheat a large skillet on medium heat. I'm using stainless steel, but non-stick works pretty well too for this. And once we get our large skillet nice and hot, I'm going to add a little bit more of that Spanish extra virgin olive oil. You don't need much because the chorizo has quite a bit of fat in it. But we just want to get a little bit in there to get it going, and now add in the chorizo. And that's what you want to hear. You want to make sure it sizzles when it hits the pan. You just get that nice and evenly spread out, and what you want to do, you want to let that cook and kind of brown on one side before flipping it around a lot. So we're going to let it sit for a couple minutes. Okay, and now a couple minutes in, we can give the chorizo a flip and use a spatula just to continue breaking it up. And after a couple minutes on that second side, we're just going to repeat, flipping it again and breaking it up with the spatula. And now at this point, we're about 5 minutes in, The chorizo is nicely browned but not cooked all the way through. At this point, we want to add the veggies that we've prepped. And once you add your onions and peppers, you just want to stir everything around to evenly incorporate, and all of that oil from the chorizo is really going to give this a nice flavor. Now we've let the chorizo along with the onions and peppers saute for a couple more minutes off camera, stirring occasionally. At this point, I'm going to add some tomato paste and some minced garlic. And you just want to get it in there and then move it around to prevent that garlic from burning. We're just trying to get a little bit of color on that tomato paste in the center of the pan, and then we can start to slowly incorporate it all throughout like so until everything is homogeneous. So we'll check back in a few minutes. Okay, and just a few minutes later, everything is nice and mixed up. At this point, we can turn off the heat. And we can add in our rice. Now I probably made a little bit more rice than I need, so you might just want to gauge. I'm going to use probably about 2/3 of it. And now you just want to gently incorporate the rice until everything looks nice and evenly mixed. Okay, and off camera, I just took a spoon and loaded up the poblano peppers with that chorizo rice mixture. Now we're ready to pop these in the oven. And our sheet pan is nice and preheated. Just going to add a very small amount of the extra virgin olive oil. Now we can carefully lay these on. Keep in mind that pan is hot. Okay, now I'm going to pop this back into the 350-degree oven and let them go for about 15 minutes. This is another optional step, but if you prefer, you want to add your cheese about 10 minutes in. You only want to let that cheese melt for the last, 5 to 7 minutes of the cooking time. So I'm going to put cheese on half of these. And this is Monterey Jack that I'm using. You can use really any type you like. Okay, and after a total of 15 minutes in the oven, here we go. Stuffed poblano peppers with Mexican rice, chorizo, Monterey Jack cheese. We are just ready to plate these up. It's going to be good. Okay, and now really the best part of this dish, what really takes it over the top, we're going to add on that avocado cream sauce now at the end. Okay, so here is the dish served up. Stuffed poblano peppers with Mexican rice, chorizo, Monterey Jack cheese, topped with an avocado cream that we homemade. And I've served it along with the Dos Equis. Really, really nice accompaniment to have a nice cold beer with this dish. So let's dig in and give it a try. So just what makes that so good, there's a lot of spice in there. We didn't have to add a whole lot of extra heat on top of the peppers and that chorizo. There's already a lot of spice. We added a little bit of chili pepper to that rice, but altogether there's a decent amount of heat, and it's just balanced out so nicely by that avocado cream sauce. That is just a delicious way to balance this out, serve it on top. So I really hope you enjoyed this recipe. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Check back soon for more recipes like this one. I'm Eric from Simply Elegant Home Cooking, and I'll see you again soon.